I didn't get a water. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by... Who am I brought to you by today? I forgot who the heck I
I'm
was
wearing a
brought
Dirty
to you
Duck
by.
shirt. Dirty
Duck, Alpha Outdoors, Stanfield Stool, Dirty Duck, Cold Brew. Go get it for the summer. I am Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
Cold Brew's a game changer at 2:30.
And with us today in a town in South Carolina that I have absolutely nowhere it is. It's called Bluffton, South Carolina. It's on your way to Hilton Head, where you've spent time at before.
I have been to Hilton Head. It's a beautiful place.
With us today, Mr. Justin Hodge with Hook and Gaff and everybody else. He is the most creative man in the saltwater world, I have found out. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, guys. Thanks for having me on today.
Now, you don't know this, but you are with two guys today. One of them loves the water. That's me. And we got one of them that is now officially a member of the Navy SEALs because he is an official diver now. He just got back from the Bahamas.
Well, not an official diver. I dove once.
You said you told me you're basically a Navy SEAL now.
Pretty much.
Andy has been bitten by a stingray, a pig,
right there,
and a barracuda on his last vacation. But his 10-year-old son told me, or 9, he's going to be 10. He tells me, he goes, we never really saw a barracuda.
We saw plenty of barracuda. I got bit by a pig on this.
That sounded like the Grand Slam. The Grand Slam was getting bit by something.
Yeah. We were in the Bahamas last week, and we went to the Exuma Islands, and you swim with the pigs there, and they have stingrays also, and they also have a part where sharks are swimming around you. So pigs come out first, and they're giving everybody carrots to feed these pigs. Well, somehow I ended up with like a baby carrot. Somehow, like it's this freaking big, and I get the most aggressive pig in the bunch. Like you can tell, like he's a boar trying to make a name for himself. And I stick that baby carrot out, and that son of a bitch chomped down on this finger, and I'm bleeding all over the place. I'm in the ocean. I got sharks 50 feet behind me, blood's dripping in the water. So I get out of the water, rub some sand on it to that's what I learned in my SEAL training because I scuba dived before when I became the Navy SEAL. Pack that wound with dirt, and then started feeding the stingrays. So have you ever fed stingrays before, Justin?
I have. I've been to the Abbot Coast has kind of like the same thing going on.
Yeah,
feeding pigs.
So I've got this Bahamian guy who's actually from Jamaica, and you put your 2 fingers out like this, and you put the squid in it, and then the squid kind of floats up. And then you put that hand in the dirt or in the sand, and then they swim by and take it. Yeah. Well, I'm already nervous because I've got Steve Irwin flashing through my head, and I've got this giant stingray that they call Angel. Put my hand in the sand, and somehow she misses the squid and grabs my middle finger. And I think stingrays and crocodile are probably similar because she death rolls with me. So I'm pulling this bitch out of the ocean, and then the guy blames me. He's like, listen, this is why it's important to listen to instructions. You were supposed to let that squid go when she took it. And I'm like, she didn't take it. She took my finger.
So you argued like your son does with you all the time, because that's what I'm getting here is.
Jeff, I was in the right here. He was not.
Okay.
And then they started flanking me. And that's when I realized that, I don't know, maybe they smelled the blood also.
So how'd this barracuda bite you?
Oh, Jeff, just being one with nature.
Yeah. This is the same guy, though. We were in Puerto Rico a couple of years ago, and my oldest grandson thinks he got stung by a jellyfish.
Yeah.
So Andy saw that show, Heartbreak Kid, with I can't remember the guy's name.
Ben Stiller,
where he gets peed on. So Andy's over on the beach pissing on his son, and finds out later he didn't get stung by a damn jellyfish. He just gotten some coral.
It was actually coral. But I did get to pee on him. So it's
great trip.
Listen, he was a baby. He pissed in my face on numerous occasions. So this was payback in my mind.
Payback.
So you just got back from Walker's Cay. I have heard about Walker's Cay. Where is Walker's Cay at exactly?
So Walker's Cay is about a 45-minute plane flight out of Fort Lauderdale. You're flying west or east, obviously. It's in the Abaco. It's down there. It's right above Little Grand Keek. and Carl Allen, the big treasure hunter, bought that many years ago from, and I hope I'm politically correct on all this, but he bought the island from the Bahamian government, and has tried to really turn it into something special. I mean, it is a special place. It's always promoted. Great blue marlin fishing, great bill fishing. They've always had big tournaments. They had a huge tournament 2 weeks ago. It's one of their big tournaments, the Walker's Cay Open. And then we had a follow-up tournament with the Sport Fishing Championship this past weekend. But yeah, Carl Allen is Mr. A. He's trying to make that thing, very presentable to people that actually want to stay on island. You can't really, the amenities are growing. I went there last year to film a fly fishing documentary with some good friends, and we basically slept in a hammock on the back end of the island, and up on some rungs of a shack. So at least I got some AC and hot water this time. But it's getting there. There's a lot of people fly into Walker's Cay. There's a key. Everybody calls it key. I call it Cay, but there's a airstrip right there, and a lot of people fly in and out of there.
There used to be someone used to have a commercial with it, and I don't know if it was Rolex or Mercedes or BMW. It was one of the high-end type brands had a deal about Walker's Cay and the fishing. They have a big marlin tournament or something there.
There's the Walker's Cay Open was 2 weeks ago, so we had ours this week. So it was last weekend, a couple days ago. So there was I think there was 60 boats in that tournament. And yeah, they have a huge tournament there.
What's entry free on something like that? Because I know it's if you got to ask how much, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure with that one. I know first, second, and third. The boat that I was on this past week, Plain Simple, they took third in that tournament, and they won a daily, and they took home about 144 grand. Yeah, and I think they caught a couple whites, some blues, and a sail. But I had another buddy, Matt George, and I believe he was on the Kicking Tires, and I think they finished second, and I think they did about like 156 grand. But Mr. A has put up an opportunity for guys there. He's always wanted a grander to come to the scale on one of his tournaments, and that hasn't happened yet. But he's got like a little purse, and it's up to $1.4 million now. So if you catch a grander, and a grander is a marlin over 1,000 pounds, you'll get to take home. You and your team will get to take home 1.4. So that's we were hoping and praying for that, and I don't know if you guys saw my stories Saturday, but it was big out there, and we got a couple knockdowns, but no, we marked some fish, but nothing came into the spread wanting to eat. And we were just hoping and praying maybe this was the day the grander just showed up out of the blue. So
you said he bought this island. So how does that, what is is it still under Bahamian law and rule? Like, how does that work?
I don't have the politically correct answer to that. I'm not sure if it is or if it isn't.
I don't.
But that island was destroyed. That key was destroyed. I think in the 2000s, and it just laid barren for a while. And then now, Mr. A is working on getting it back. I mean, the marina is beautiful. All the cleats for the boats to tie off have walkers, inlaid in them. It's a beautiful little spot. Bone fishing, right around there. You can wet wade on fly or spin cast, whatever you want to do. But there's bones around. But you can jump on a boat and run, island hop. That's one of the coolest things I love about the Abacus is if you want to go do something, you just hop on a boat, shoot down to the next island or next key, and typically there's a couple restaurants around, but it's just kind of a DIY style opportunity, and you probably got to be a part of that understanding when you were there last week.
Yeah,
that's not. I think they go under Bahamian law for stuff because.
Right. He just owns that, like owning a piece of property in the
like you
Bahamas.
can own an island in Florida or off Texas or wherever you can.
Right.
But I think it's Bahamian law, and don't quote me on this for sure, because, and I'm not getting political on this at all, The same with the Jeffrey Epstein's island, I think was in the Bahamas, but it fell under Bahamian law, and that's how they got by with a lot of stuff that I'm sure was some blackmail and stuff.
Right.
But I think that's the same with all them islands. It's all I don't think you buy an island and you have your own.
It's your own flag.
Yeah, it's not going to be your laws and rules and Navy and all that other shit. I think you're part of their system. I think
that would
I
make
don't
sense.
know.
Well, on walkerk.com it says Bahamas, so
yes, that's kind of what I thought it was.
It's not a very big island. Like I'm looking at the drone shot of it, and it's got one road on it, and that basically goes to the marina.
Yeah, that road is the runway.
Is it?
Yeah.
What's the island? Have you been to? Is it Smucker Island or something that the guy Richard Branson owns Virgin Atlantic? He's got a Nucker or Smucker or I think it's either in the U.S. Virgin or the British Virgin Islands, but it's owned by Richard Branson because dipshit Michelle and Big Mike and Barack go down there sometimes and stay. But you can rent it out. I think it's like $15,000 or $20,000 a day to rent the house.
Oh, that ain't bad.
Yeah, we'll just go stay there for a week.
Not bad at all. Yeah.
Just win a Billfish tournament. You can stay there for a week.
On them Billfish tournaments, them guys don't even really break even hardly at all, do they? Even they win, they're just getting their money back. No.
Unless you're really just have the luck and the squad to just win tournaments. That's a loss / potentially break even kind of thing. But yeah, most of those guys that own those sport fishing boats, money's not an issue. So
no, it's their jam. That's what poor people don't understand. Me being a poor person, so I can I can talk about fat people, Italians, and poor people. I've got the open and straight people. So there's 4 things I can talk about. Poor people do not realize if you have a lot of money, money's not an object. Like if a poor person wants to go buy him a bag of M&Ms, it's no big deal. That's the same as them guys. They've got that kind of money. That's what they enjoy doing. And that's what you should do. If you've got a lot of money, you need to have a passion and follow it up.
Yeah, well, the cool thing is like that promotes opportunities for guys like me. That promotes opportunities for mates, captains.
Yes.
I mean, that enables them giving up a slice of what they have and the good fortune and the hard work that they've done to get where they are. It puts other people to work, which that's how it should be. And those are guys that really try to give back to other people. So yeah, it's nice of them for sure.
100%.
I get to ride on nice boats too.
Yep, 100% correct on what you just said. It's like this industry that we're in is a specialty luxury industry. Whether it's the hook and gaff watch, it's my hunting lodge, it's those boats and stuff. We have found a way to make a living off of people's hobbies that they're doing, and it creates so many jobs. That guy that owns Walker's Cay, how many jobs is he giving the Bahamians down there from construction jobs?
Oh man,
it's the best thing ever that goes on, but some poor people just don't understand. They just look at it as a waste of money. That's their passion. But other people are making a good living because of his passion. So good for him.
For sure.
When
Absolutely.
we were walking into Atlantis the first day that we were there, you kind of come down and like there's all of these yachts. And you're like, son of a bitch, can you imagine the money in this? And then so you walk like a little bit further and around the bend, the guy that owns the Houston Rockets, his yacht's there.
Frittata?
And he's got this helicopter on the back, and it's like, and I told my boys, I said, and my boys are 9 and 5, so the concept of money kind of escapes them. But I was like, if you want to know the difference between billionaires and millionaires, it's right there. That yacht right there, and that yacht right there.
You can. Well, judging by how big the vessel is, you can always tell how much money somebody's got, depending on how big their tender is. The boat that just comes with them everywhere. So, that's either a 42-foot center console or, it's another sport fisher at 64, 70, 90, whatever. But yeah, that's typically how you can tell, especially if they've got a helipad. Yeah. And then you talking big money.
And my father-in-law, he's never traveled anywhere, and he's recently retired, and he just couldn't wrap his mind around he's like, that guy, he's got a helicopter on the back. Well, that means he's got to have a helicopter pilot here, not doing anything. I'm like, yeah, but when he wants to
Charlie's too practical.
When he wants to fly that helicopter, it's money well spent. He's like, I bet that guy's probably making 6 figures a year just flying that helicopter around.
Yeah, I bet he is too.
Flying it one day a week or whatever.
You better believe it. And depending on how big that vessel is, I mean, you got to think there's probably at least 20 to 30 people on staff potentially, depending on how big it is. So between your chef, your captain, your mates, the people that just keep on it. I mean, those are monsters.
That guy made
looking
his
at
money
it
in the
right
restaurant
now.
business.
I'm looking at right now, 77-meter super yacht.
How big's a meter?
Three. It's like a yard basically.
So how long is it then?
It's roughly 77 yards.
Why don't they just say yards then? Why
It's
confuse
meters? It's not the same. It's different by a little bit.
So it's basically almost the size of a football field, long.
Approximately. Yeah.
God almighty, it's a lot of boat.
Yes, sir. And you got to think that there's probably 5 to 7 levels of those boats. So I mean, they're mega. I've been fortunate. I do a lot of work for Network Innovations down in Stuart, Florida. My friend Matt George, who I'd mentioned that at Fish on the Kick and Tires, he is the VP of that company, and I've gone on these big mega yachts to do some production for him as far as putting like Starlink, satellite communication. So I have been able to step on those vessels, and they are just the luxury. They're just unbelievable.
So you're a Starlink guy?
Yeah, I mean, I love a Starlink, but don't get me wrong. Jim Jensen that owns Satcom was the boat owner on my of this past weekend, so I'm kind of torn between the two because Jim, we had a great time this past weekend, and Jim's a stand-up dude, and he kind of is looking for me to do a little bit of stuff for him as well. So, but Starlink,
Satcom is the name of the other company.
Satcom Direct, I believe, is who he is. He does a lot more like aviation. But yeah, Starlink. Elon Musk opened up a major opportunity. Well, the good and the bad of Starlink is, when you would leave, you get a mile offshore. Like unless you're in the Gulf of Mexico and you're an AT&T guy, AT&T. I said it right the first time. Guy, I'm a Verizon guy, but as soon as I leave, the harbor where I go, you lose signal, and you don't have signal for the rest of the your trip. Come back, your phone blows up. But in the Gulf, AT&T is a lot of those rigs are powered by AT&T. So guys, when they get up to those rigs down in the Gulf, they can get service. So it was the good. The bad of that is like, yeah, the good of that is like you're disconnected. And since this world is the way it is now, being connected is full time for the most part. So the good of that is, Starlink enabled you to, have service 24/7. And for me, doing the Billfish stuff, it enables me to drop, shoot photos, edit photos on site, on the boat, 200 miles offshore, and upload to my people, or, shoot video. When my team's looking for a blue marlin catch or whatever, I'm dropping that and writing my notes and then uploading to Starlink, and they're able to pull and then produce and put that in the show.
We have Starlink here at the lodge, and it's changed us because we have a good steady signal all the time. We did lose it yesterday. We had a real big thunderstorm, and you get the same fate on it you do with like DishNet and stuff. But
sure.
I saw something really interesting. I'm a tornado chaser. That's my passion. I do when I'm not hunting. I chase tornadoes, and I do it a lot. I saw a guy with a Starlink pad chasing the other day with the dish on his truck, and I thought, I'll be a son of a gun. I'd never had seen that before on a mobile vehicle, so I didn't know. And then when you talked about the boat, it made a lot of sense. So that they are mobile.
Yeah. So down in the Gulf, I think the biggest issue is like Starlink. I mean, Starlink has exploded. So when you're around other boats, say you're all fishing the same rig and you're marking fish or whatever, all those boats that have Starlinks are trying to connect to like one satellite or a couple different satellites. So it does crush that bandwidth a little bit. But, other than that, Elon's throwing those things up pretty much every day. And, they'll be, it's actually really great because in the middle of nowhere, if you get in a really bad situation in a pinch, instead of, having, the Garmin's, the inReaches to get you out, or sat phones or whatever, at least you'll be able to at some point, just jump on your phone and make a call and send a location via Starlink.
That's an interesting deal. They've changed the whole game on everything. Now I'm going to ask you a couple saltwater questions.
Sure.
I like to catch fish. I love to fish in the salt, but I don't like to catch big fish. I don't want to work on them deals. It's like people watch that show, what's the tuna show that they've got on? Not Deadly. Wicked Tuna. I love that show. But people don't realize those guys are fighting those fish for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. It's just not 3 minutes. That's a lot. It's a lot of work. Those guys bust their butt for that. How come we don't have a great white shark catching tournament? I mean, that's the biggest fish in the ocean, but there's no contest for that. Nobody fishes for great whites, do they?
Yeah. They do. There are a couple guys that are able to do that. There's actually a guy out of Hilton Head, Chip Meckelup, with Outcast Sport Fishing. And he is always, if you've watched Shark Week, you've seen Chip on the Discovery Channel. He is one of the main guys, the only guys. I think you have to have a certain license or, stance in that. But he's able to target whites and tag them. And he does a lot of research. So there's like groups like O-Search, and then there's guys like Chip that go out, tag, and really promote just understanding of white sharks. But as far as tournaments, we're outdoorsmen and women out here, and we know how much it can ruffle feathers for the rest of the people. So people don't want to see sharks die. There's a lot of controversy that goes into that, but I will say shark populations are exploding. So
they need to catch more of them. I mean, it's kind of like the wolf population everywhere. Just because it's an apex predator don't mean you don't need to jack with it.
Right. Yeah. Just like coyote population. And, we got a big coyote population here in South Carolina. But yeah, you got to keep, there's got to be predator control for sure, just to make sure all the subspecies survive. Because, we all know how that works. But yeah, for sure.
Do you get in the water a lot while you're filming?
No, I'm a boat guy. I have been. There's been times that I do it. If I can see the bottom and I'm in crystal blue water, I'll jump in. But I've just never really. I leave that to other people. Yeah. So I caught my first blue marlin in Guatemala 2 weeks ago, and of course you got to get thrown in. So I got thrown in, and I don't know. I'm not comfortable in anywhere around here. I'm comfortable getting in the water, but 1,000-foot water, can't see nothing underneath you. I get a little worried sometimes. But there's a trip I got coming up in the fall, and that's to Los Locos, and that is a mecca for bait balls on striped marlin. Striped marlin on bait balls, sailfish, and the water clarity is just unbelievable. And you get these really just amazing photos of stripes coming in to eat. And then if you're shooting with a housing, you can capture the panga and the guys fishing on the boat and the bait ball and the fish. And that's a bucket list shot for me. So, I'll overcome getting out and doing that at that point in time. But just a shot.
Have you been to Guadalupe Island off of Mexico where they catch all the great whites?
I haven't been to Guadalupe. They actually catch more white sharks out of Hilton Head than pretty much anywhere. It is the mecca for white sharks. I think Chip at one point was tagged and released 18 whites in a season. Yeah, so it's a huge. And it's funny because I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. My family has a farm here in South Carolina. I now own it with my cousins and brothers. But I spent my summers as a kid swimming in the ocean and here in Hilton Head, and then 20 years later, Chip's putting out all this information that white sharks are just swimming off the beach, and I'm like, oh my gosh! It's but you never thought about that as a kid.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking. I was frolicking in that water with my he was 4 at the time, 4 or 5.
In Hilton Head? Oh, yeah, you sure were. Yeah, that's right. I tell you, I've been to Chatham, Massachusetts, and I've never seen. That's the only place I've seen great whites that I knew was a great white, and there was a lot of them there. And I just those people are swimming on the beach and stuff, and I thought I either have too much brains or I just don't know enough about sharks because it scared the piss out of me to think about them people being in that water. And they had seals, swimming by, and those sharks were up there eating them seals. And there's a seal on the beach. It's got blood all over. It's been attacked by a shark and got away. And these people got their kids swimming right next to
these guys are surfing with wetsuits on that look like seals.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't understand that. I'm too big of a chicken shit anyways on the shark deal. I saw a video the other day, and I don't know if it's a true video or not, or a fake, but it's of a guy throws a hunk of meat on a hook off of the pier, like at Newport Beach in California or somewhere, and gets on his surfing board, and a big shark catches the bait, and he's going up and down holding on to the shark, and he's following behind it on that surfboard. I want to think it's a fake, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Was it you that was telling me about the guy that was cleaning fish and got hot and jumped in the water? I must have heard this in the
Marlin.
I must have heard this in the Bahamas. Somebody was cleaning a bunch of fish, had all the fish guts on him, and then he got hot. So he's like, "I'll just take a dip in the ocean." Well, like the sharks attacked him because he had all this.
2 sharks.
Yeah.
Marlin. That's there's a guy named Rufus Wakeman that I know down there, and Rufus is a legend down there all over the world and the fly fishing and fishing community, and that was his son that got ate up. So they did that. They had him like touring on news and all that, but his nickname is Marlin, or it might be Marlin, but he's a younger fellow.
He passed away from it?
He's in his 20s. No.
Just got him a couple times.
This guy
right?
did. Yeah, I grabbed him. I think he got hit on the back, and then he got hit on the leg pretty good. But yeah, that's Rufus Wakeman's son.
Dude, you talk about a bar story. I'm telling you, you walk into a bar and you got some fucking teeth marks and sharp stuff in there, and they'll be like, I'm telling you, women will love you. That'd be the biggest panty dropper in the whole world.
Dig scars, baby.
I'm telling you right there. Who's that dude? Oh, he got ate up with a shark. Girls be all over that shit. That's a real man right there. I'm telling you.
Bought the shark and won.
Yep. What a crazy deal.
But yeah, he had to be. I don't know exactly where he was. Y'all are probably correct, but I know he was losing a lot of blood from what I know.
Do you get seasick? Have you ever had that problem?
There's only been a couple of times where I felt it come on and knew it was coming. I mean, I was in the DR. It's really only been like 2-3 times. And I was in the DR, and I was putting my camera together on the boat, and it was hot. And the waves in the DR on average are just big. So I'm sitting there like putting screws in and just rocking. There's no AC on these boats. And I started feeling pretty terrible. And I was like, oh man, here we go. And so I just ran outside and, stuck my head in the wind. And it definitely helped. I will say my parents are going to watch this, but I shotgunned a beer and it made me feel better. So
gave you your sea legs?
all the Dominicans were like, oh, gringo. And I was really like, I was just trying to feel better. And it worked. So it got me back. And, but yeah, I'm very fortunate and very blessed to not get seasick. When I first started getting out there and doing this stuff, I'd take the Dramamine, and then, I was out there enough to where, I figured out that it wasn't an issue for me. I mean, we were in 7 to 10 footers on Saturday, and like boat rocking all the way up. There was one guy that did get seasick, but even the rest of the guys were good to go. But it was big water, big waves, and especially when you're in a viewfinder, your mind is looking through something else, and your body's going like this to throw off your equilibrium. That's what really makes it get you seasick. But I'm very fortunate to not have that issue.
My wife,
I'll feel myself sometimes doing it in the viewfinder. I'm like,
right.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah.
My wife, she has real bad car sickness. We can just be going up down the road 20 miles and like she'll get car sick there. But she was sitting out on a float, and like the waves were kind of taking her, and she got sick on a freaking float.
On a float.
With the shore 15 yards away. But she's like, I got to get out of here. And she has passed that gene on to my oldest son. 30 minutes later, he's doing the same thing, and he's like, Dad, I gotta go in. I'm getting sick. I'm like, my goodness, boy. Like, you wouldn't have made it back in the pirate days, kid.
I feel so sorry for those people. I mean, I've been on boats where, they bring their kids and they just, they're steady puking, and you can't. I mean, once you start, it's really hard to get back out of that until you put your feet back on land, and then you're fine, which is crazy. But yeah, I have seen my fair share of chunks being blown into the ocean. So
makes for better fishing that way. Chum in the waters.
Yeah, chum in the water. That's right.
So why do they throw you in with this blue marlin?
That's a thing that bill fishing is. You catch your first, billfish, whether it's an Atlantic, a Pacific, that's just, good karma. You got to go in, whether you get back to the dock and everybody throws you in, or a buddy pushes you off as you're out there. So I've caught quite a few billfish. I've been very fortunate. Besides like documenting it, I've been able to catch some, and I caught my first Pacific sail a long time ago, was thrown in there. And then, I caught my first Pacific blue marlin 3 weeks ago. It was about a 400 pounder, which was so awesome for my first to be a really good one. And then, I've caught Atlantic sails. But yeah, it's just kind of ritual. That's what we do in the industry.
Not for me. I'd skip it.
You wouldn't jump in,
huh?
You wouldn't jump in.
It's not on my bucket.
You don't jump in.
They push you in.
You get pushed in, and that's the key. Is like you can't just jump in. You gotta get pushed in.
If I can see, I'm not scared. I just do not like water. Doesn't bother me at all. But man, I've been in some deep water outside of a boat, 2,000 feet and something. And I always have a feeling I'm gonna look down and see a big old fucking shark eye looking right at me, and that scares the piss out of me just thinking about that.
I've seen big sharks in my tenure of doing what I'm doing. I've been a part of catching 12, 13 foot tiger sharks. I've seen some big ones for sure. So
no, hell no.
I feel the same way. I'm not a deep water, can't see the bottom kind of guy.
Now behind you, is that a picture of a tarpon?
Yeah, that's a tarpon. Lighting on it's probably pretty bad, coming off the glare, the sheen. But that is a tarpon. You can actually see the fly is coming out of the mouth. We lost this fish at this point. The fly is getting spit. She came up. She's probably about a 170 pounder. She's a big girl. But that's down in Costa Rica. I went down there 2 years ago, and it's a mecca for catching monsters. I mean, I hooked and jumped 16 fish, and I landed 0 in 5 days that I was there. The rest of it, I mean, we jumped like 86 tarpon that week. A good buddy of mine, Jesse Males, that's in the industry that I'm in. He's backwater fly fishing. He's done a lot of documentaries down there, and he's like, dude, you got to come down here and do this. I'm a fly fisherman, saltwater fly fisherman. I like to catch big game on fly, or it's a growing passion of mine. So jumping tarpon is a big game fish, and I love it. So
how does
this saltwater cover here came out of this same trip here.
Those fish weren't they going? Their numbers were way down for a long time, weren't they?
Yeah, they're all the population's always ebb and flowing. But yeah, their population there is used to be amazing. I mean, it still is really good. But yeah, I mean, just like everything, you start to see some populations fall off with, the amount of people fishing for them, or, resources are just changing over time. So, but yeah, I mean, that kind of fishing right there is actually kind of glorified just beer drinking. You use weighted sinking line, so you've got your front line out of your tip. That water, as you can see, it's really murky. It's like that. It reminded me a lot of home here, South Carolina. So you've got to get, but underneath that, 2 feet of murk, and then it's clean underneath. So you're fishing, big purple and black flies, and you basically just have your line out of your tip, and you're just giving it a little wiggle, and all of a sudden you'll feel something come up and grab you, and then you're sticking that fish as much as you can, and it comes out of the water like this, and 150 to 200 pound fish jumping out, and it's on after that.
So it's not like fly fishing, like I'm probably thinking, like when you're on the river and doing the cast motion.
The trout guys, those guys are more or less like fishing riffs. They're trying to, they're mending. They're, a lot of the guys. What's the name for it? We can move on. But yeah, those trout guys, it's completely different. Even sight fishing in blue water for tarpon down in the Keys, down in Florida. I mean, sight fishing is completely different than the operation that goes on. But this enables you, if you've never really hooked and caught tarpon, this enables you to learn how to fight them. And then when you go to sight fish, you have more of a better understanding on how that fish is going to react. So it's a cool experience to get some tarpon under your belt.
And then you're in a
without getting scared out of your mind, trying to do the right thing, stripping in, and you get flustered. These you don't know they're coming pretty much until they start biting.
And how deep of water is this?
We're fishing the beach down there for the most part. Our guys, the guys will get up and we'll start a drift, and land is right there. There's a river that comes out of that splits Nicaragua and Costa Rica, and really that's why it's a lot of fresh water that dumps in right there, and that's what really promotes a lot of that murk. And so you're just running the beach. You'll start a drift, you'll come back down, you'll fish it, and then you'll just kind of get back in line, kind of like what you do here in the States. But yeah, you're just kind of floating, drifting.
And then whenever you hook one of these things, how long of a fight do you have on your hands?
Depending on how you fight them. So tarpon will come up for air. If you can keep them down, and if fish is going this way, you want to be pulling the opposite direction, down and low. It keeps their head underwater, so they tire out a little bit quicker. But normally a fight, just depending on size, can be anywhere from 8 to 20 minutes.
Well, that's not too bad then.
No, it's not like catching. And you're in a smaller boat, so you can chase and move with like you're fishing on a skiff. We're in pangas pretty much, so center console pangas, and they're kind of chasing these fish down for you as well. So.
Yeah, because we had a guy on, Stacy Coker's his name, but he caught a swordfish, and I think it was like 4, 5, 6 hours or something like that. And he left the door after 20 minutes.
You better believe it. A lot of that stuff is electric fishing, though, nowadays, so it's not as bad as stand-up.
He didn't want to do that. He wanted to do it the old school way. He wanted to do it.
Good for him.
He said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it the right way, and I'm going to fight this thing.
He's going to do it again, so I'm curious to see if he does it the old-fashioned way or the new way on his next trip.
Well, that's just like me. I finally caught my first blue marlin, and I'm like, you know what? That took me 40 minutes. We leadered the fish in the first 10 minutes, which that's a catch. But we brought her back to the boat. She sounded, and then we got her back. And at this point, I had hooked her. This is like a 30 wide reel, so it's a smaller profile. And we hooked her. She jumped a couple times, but she's on the surface more or less when she eats, so you can back down on her, try and grab leader and get that catch right away. But then she sounded. I brought her back, and I was fighting her stand up at first, but then I went and I sat down on the chair, and then I got her back. She did some jumps. We got some good footage. If you go to my Instagram page, my social, there's a video I have of her by the boat. But then she sounds again. And I ended up having to I was dying. I mean, it was so hot in Guatemala. You're sitting in a chair. I got my feet up on a cooler to be able to lean back. But then they finally stretched it out and put a harness on me. And I was like, oh my gosh, we should do this from the beginning. But I got the stand up eat, got the stand up fight, got the sit down, and then I got the harness. So I got full phase of feeling what a giant can do. But yeah, once I released that fish, I was like, okay, I'll go back to the video camera. I don't need to do that anytime soon. So
here's my dumb question. I'm on your Instagram right now, and you've got these amazing pictures of fish jumping out of the water. How do we capture this? Now, I'm going to ask you a dumb question. Is it a video that you take a still out of, or are you just clicking away photographs the whole time?
We call that spraying and praying in the industry.
Gotcha.
That you're upping your shutter speed. I mean, you're cranking shutter, and when those fish are coming up, just settings dialed in, those fish jump up, and you're getting a lot of frames in a moment's time with those kind of shots.
So you're deleting a lot of pictures to get one of these just amazing moments in time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this sequence was really good. I think I got 10 out of that sequence that were all just clean. But a lot of times you're, and in that moment too, you're shooting your autofocus is on auto. I mean, you're not shooting manual for that kind of stuff. But then your autofocus will sometimes jump off the fish and shoot the water behind you, and those are moments you're like, oh man, noob.
That's got to be a kick in the balls.
It is. So you're shooting the water in front of them, and you're like, oh, cool. Yeah.
So what's your favorite place to go to? I mean, it sounds like you've been everywhere. You've been to the Dominican Republic, Costa Rica. I mean, where's the one place if you had to recommend somebody to go to?
As far as just travel there or just go there to fish?
Do both.
I would say, I mean, I love Costa Rica. My brother was married in Costa Rica many years ago before I started picking up a camera. He was married before like a year before I started picking up a camera. I was fortunate as a kid to go to New Zealand, Australia. My family's I grew up very poor, but I was able to do to be a part of some really cool stuff, really cool trips. And I'm very appreciative, blessed by that. But Costa Rica is a really good spot. I mean, I've spent time in the rainforest on the Gulf side, and then I've also spent time on the Pacific side of Costa Rica. But hands down, my favorite place that I've ventured to a lot, and I just got back from there, is Guatemala. It's just a spot that it just opens my eyes to the rest of the world. When people hate what's going on, they hate their life in America, they hate America. I mean, we have it so good here. And when you go to third world countries and you see how poor people are and how happy people are, I mean, that just blows my mind. And just being able to see that, that's so special, because people just love life more than material goods and, the political problems that people don't like and whatever. But Guatemala is a place where there's a ton of people. They go to work every single day. They're happy. I mean, if you're on my Instagram right now, I kind of did a slider of culture, and there's a lady that's standing there, an older lady, and she's making homemade tortillas.
Yep.
And every year that I've gone there, she's been on the same corner making homemade tortillas, and you can see how. So I rolled the window down. We stopped, and she was working with some other girls, and they all backed away, and I had my camera out the window. And she stopped what she was doing, gave me the thumbs up, and had the tortilla dough in her hand. And you can tell how happy she is right there. I mean, but that's a lady that who knows how many days she goes and stands on that corner and tries to sell, just trying to make a little bit of a living. But those people are happy, and that's what I really appreciate. I mean, I've always said, what I love about my job is it's powered by 3 F's, and it's food, fellowship, and photografia, because in English it's a P.
Yeah.
So those things together really drive me to be able to travel, see the world, and shaking a hand with somebody and smiling at somebody, even like if you have broken English or broken language barriers, but just a smile. And to have them return a smile to you is pretty awesome. I mean, it's a pretty great experience there in Guatemala.
How safe is Guatemala?
It's pretty safe. I wouldn't say it's not. I mean, I wouldn't say it's there's definitely parts, but a lot of times we don't really go out and walk the streets. Normally, this stuff is I go to Pacific Fins a lot, and every time I've gone to Pacific Fins. So we have a kind of a little compound that we stay in. But people, I've had the window down. We drive by the fish markets, and people stop and they look at you and they smile. And there's good people everywhere. But then just like anything, I mean, shoot, you can get in a lot of trouble here, thinking you're safe. So I mean, I'm at this point in time, who knows how safe America is. With everybody coming into our country illegally.
We did Costa Rica last year, and it's such a vibe down there.
It is.
It's a totally, and one of my good friends, the guy that owns Pacific Calls, one of the guys that owns Pacific Calls, Trevor Austin, he had been before, and he's like, dude, he's like, when you leave Costa Rica, like you just want to sell everything and just go just go be a beach bum.
Yes, better believe it.
And he was right.
Yeah, I've spent time in Honker, I've spent time in Dominical, but you're right. Like just walking the streets, like there, I feel it's a little bit safer, maybe, just because the population of Guatemala seems really like concentrated. So there's just a lot going on in the places that I go to. But Costa Rica is kind of a little spread out, so it doesn't make you feel like there's just a lot of people that you could get in trouble with. I've felt less safe in Puerto Rico than in most places. Yeah, I've had some racial tension towards me just for being white and then that comes down to Americans going down there and thinking they're awesome and not really probably being the greatest human beings to these people. But you step outside of San Juan and you don't get as much as that. But that was probably one of the first times that I've ever been like racially profiled, where people wouldn't help me, get me food or anything like that. So, but not to say that Puerto Rico, it's not all like that for sure.
Yeah.
But
we went to Puerto Rico. What was that? 2 years ago, Jeff?
Mm-hmm.
We only did San Juan for like half a day. We were flying out of there, so we were there for like we went and saw the fort or whatever, and we had the place where they invented the pina colada or some shit like that. So I mean, we were only there for a couple hours, so I mean, we weren't restaurant hopping.
That's about as much time you need. You walk the streets right there, you see the housing, the different color homes, just the cobblestone kind of walkways there, and then the fort. I mean, it is really beautiful right there. But the rest of the country is. I mean, I'm a guy that likes to get out of the commercialized stuff and get into the real backbone, the heart of what country's all about, because that's when you really capture a story. That's when you're really able to deep down see the roots. And I shoot on a really high. I think I'm a big census guy, so I try and shoot photos that you can or document something that really brings emotion into. That. So touch, taste, smell, all your senses, getting out of that and actually getting into moments, like genuine moments with people, is really when you're able to capture something that is super genuine. So.
Well, they got the worst roads in the world in in Puerto Rico. I've never seen the mountainous roads. Our country club in Knox City's car pass are better than the highways were there. It was terrible. I liked Puerto Rico, but we stayed in a nice neighborhood, Rio Grande neighborhood, on a private, nice beach, and probably $1 million home. So it was different. And then we went to a private beach to go snorkeling, and it was as pretty as Isla Mujeres, Mexico, which is one of the prettiest places I've been. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful place, but
Puerto Rico has some of the top beaches in the world. As far as just beauty, Calibra is a little island.
That's where we went.
Puerto Rico. Okay, yeah, unbelievable. I've spent some time fly fishing down there, and it's unbelievable. So,
what's the weirdest shit you've seen out in the ocean? Because you're spending the night on these nice big boats, correct?
Yeah, I am. And a lot of them. Some of them we come back, but like all the Gulf stuff is overnighters. You're spending 3 days on a boat with a group, but. I don't know. We ran over a whale shark this past summer in Block Island. Group that I was on, this whale shark came out of nowhere, and it was the entire size of the back transom, wide, and it comes out of nowhere and it lifts the boat up out of the water, stops all prop movement. We're dead in the water there, and then I'm like, oh my gosh! And it's just this monster whale shark that picked our boat up like it was nothing. Just because it came up, he's like, oh man, scratched him, and he just kept going. So,
how big are they?
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
How big is that thing? Because I'm going to be in Mexico next month, and where we're going at, you can go swim with them. And this does not sound like I want to swim with one now.
That fish was probably, I don't know, 25 to 30 feet long. Oof. Monster. Yeah. I mean, just a monster. Because if you think like the width of a back transom is, it's 15 feet wide in a lot of boats. It's even bigger in some. But to have that fish, like when it came out from underneath the boat, And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a giant.
So you were off Block Island off of the coast of Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted to go there. That's on one of my bucket list places. A lot of people don't know about it, but it's kind of like a Mackinac Island out there or another Nantucket. What's that island like? Did you spend time on the actual island?
I did. We stayed on there. So we stayed in the Narragansett, which is like the oldest hotel in America. And it's out there, and it didn't have any AC, which my grandmother's house didn't have AC when I was growing up. So I was okay with it. But like the rest of the squad was like, man, I ain't got no AC. I was like, yeah, well, it's a cool spot. I think Amelia Earhart stayed there. Like, it's a cool spot. But like the rest of the island has some old timey bars that have been there. Like there's my friend that was on my boat. Ross, his wife, owns the Yellow Kittens, and so the Yellow Kittens is probably one of the top 50 oldest bars in America. And so he was even telling me stories of how they used to like run bootleg, rum. There's an area in that bar that you can go in, and there's a trap door. You pull the trap door, and there's a stairway and a tunnel that leads out the other side to a beach, and they would bring in. They'd run like rum or whatever on that in that bar. So it's really cool, historic, and I appreciate historic value of things. Before I was even considering this, when I was a kid growing up, I loved American history. I loved history, and so I love history of things. So I just find that super fascinating.
Yeah, it's a place I want to go. I love history, and I like things that are. I don't like going everything that's done the beaten path a lot of the times. And so Block Island is on my list of places I want to go. And I love that whole area up there. So that
Block's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. I mean, I went to I've been to Martha's Vineyard. I've been to Block. I haven't been to Nantucket, but that whole little area right there is beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean,
I want to go to the Whaling Museum on Nantucket. That's another thing that's on my list. But Block Island and there are two things. And it's called, what'd you call it? What's the name of the hotel you stayed at?
The Narragansett.
That's got to be, I can't pronounce that, but that's the same name. That's an Indian tribe that was up there, wasn't it?
I couldn't tell.
I think it is, because there's a couple of towns named that same kind of, I can't even pronounce it, up around Boston, south of Boston. I think that was an Indian tribe.
It's a three-story little hotel. I mean, it's a cool little spot. They tell ghost stories there and stuff. So it's a cool little area for sure. So we'll go back there this summer, hopefully. We've got stops on and Montauk, Martha's Vineyard and Block still on schedule to go up there and catch them tomorrow.
Montauk's got a lot of history. There's a lot of really weird stuff happened there. Have you ever heard the story about the called the Philadelphia experiment?
I have. That was in schooling a long time ago. I'd have to have a refresher.
The U.S. military found a way to take a boat and levitate it, make it disappear, and move over here, something like a time hop deal. And they used some kind of I don't know if they used radiation or whatever they did, but it was called the Montauk experience. But it was right there in that area, and that's where they did that. And they said there's a lot of weird shit that's gone on there.
I'll have to check that out. Because we do a little series called Did You Know? It's just like a little bonus episode, and I'm working on mine for this week. But I'll have to check that out, and that might tie in because mine has to do with some time travel type stuff.
Well, look up the Philadelphia experiment.
The Philadelphia experiment is what it's called.
Yep. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll save some of my time travel knowledge for that episode because I'm.
Yeah, let me know how that.
I'm
works
not
out
very
for
good.
you.
Like some of the stuff this guy's talking about is way over my head, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So, how did you get your start into this? I mean, like you said, did you always have a fascination in photography, or was this something that kind of came upon you later in life?
It was definitely later in life. Like I was telling you guys, I've been some cool places growing up, and I never really thought about like documenting something like that. My mom bought me like a Canon power shot, like the Ashton Kutcher special back in the early 2000s. It took like 2 AA batteries, and the SD card was like a 2 gig maybe. But like your phones are so far more advanced than that. But she bought me that, and I really didn't do anything with it. I shot some pics, but nothing crazy. And it wasn't until I got into college. I managed a hunting and fishing store. I worked for college at a local shop there in Columbia, South Carolina, being that I went to the University of South Carolina. And I just started, shooting products and putting them on, for social media, trying to promote our brand, trying to promote our business. Barron's Outfitters is the shop. It's probably the oldest store in South Carolina. It's been there since 1947. It's only been through 3 owners. Kent Parsons is the owner there. But I started just dabbling through college, and then my mom had a little bit better camera than I did, and this was in like 2011 or so. I had a black and tan coon dog named Bentley, and I was taking some pics of him, and that editing him on some awful editorial software. Probably just came on my PC at the time. So that kind of went away. And then when 2015 came around, I borrowed my brother's camera. He had a Canon Rebel, and I started shooting some pics. Had some good opportunities. Took some cool pics, I thought. And then from there I was like, I think I'd love to be able to just dabble in this and see where this takes me. Because I came out of college with $100,000 in student loan debt. And working 40 hours at a small mom and pop store will not get that done. So I had to find a way to work to find some other residual money. And so 40 hours a week at the shop, trying to get on opportunities to make a little extra money was big. So my mom and my dad helped me get my first PC. My first camera was a Canon 70D. And I just started shooting, started going from there.
So I mean, but what was it? So it was just a side hustle basically, but I mean, you had to see something to where you knew, like, I think I can do something in here. You know what I mean? Like, you don't just,
well, my mom is an amazing person. She's so smart. She's a valedictorian of her college. It's a lot of stress growing up when your mom's just one of the smartest people in the world. But she has a very great creative side to her. And so I think that, up until I started shooting photos, I didn't understand the creativity that my mind has towards seeing things and viewing things. And then even taking a moment where I'm looking at something, I'm trying to think on how I'm going to edit that in the moment. Because a lot of times your camera doesn't capture what you see as a human being. So I can't really draw, I can't paint. So when I was able to bring, a shot into, a raw image into editing software, being able to put my own spin on things was something that really got me excited. Especially being able to showcase my work and show my friends and show my family, things that I'm able to do. And that was, my favorite thing. I'm a photographer at heart. I love photo. There's just something about photography that I just have strong passion for. I have to shoot video, a lot of video now, which, I love video too, but it's not the same. I've had so many people come up to me, whether it's at like an art show or anything that enables them to see my work. The amount of people that come to you and they're like, thank you for shooting this photo. And I'm like, sure, but they tell me a story and they're like, this is something that I can relate to. And you can sit in an image a lot longer than you can in video, because video is, it's over and done with. You have to watch it again. But you can sit in a chair and look at a photo, or stand there and look at a photo, and it will take you somewhere in your life that you remember. And that's amazing passion, or that's an amazing connection from images that I take. If it resonates with people, and that's one thing that really excites me, being able to allow people to jump back in good times that they remember, and that's huge. It's a lot of fun, and that's why I was saying like the 3 Fs. Food on a senses level. I remember the first time I ever had street tacos, Costa Rica, my brother's wedding. Walking the streets of Costa Rica and you're eating street tacos, and that taste. Every time I have that taste, that always brings me back to Costa Rica in that time, in that moment. So the sensory of that is just the same to me in photography. And the sensory of photography, they both just run parallel with each other. And I've done a couple podcasts with other people, and one of the guys was the whiskey and whitetail guys. And so like good bourbon, fine bourbon, good whiskey, I mean, those touch on all your senses. And so they, when I was talking to him about that on that podcast, it's like, good bourbon, good food, it's all sensories. And you those things can put you back in places in your life that you remember. And it brings it back, full circle right to your sensories. So it's pretty epic. But once I saw, that, I was very fortunate. Hook and Gaff, we've mentioned Michael Sims and Gash Clayton, they're the owners there. And they've given me opportunity to get where I am, or where I was first starting out. I got back-to-back covers in 2017, June and July 2017. I got my first 2 covers for Salt Water Sportsman magazine. And that, just being able to get that staple, and then that really, jumped my career. And it was, that was only 2 years into it. So I always tell Michael, I have a lot of props to him. I work hard for what I earn, but there's certainly people along the way that have been there for me, and those guys, I've certainly been kind of staples in my career as far as being able to be where I am today.
Yeah. And like you said, photographs are so special because you're sharing your perspective on things. My son had this recent trip to the Bahamas. He had this little bitty, I think he got the camera for probably Christmas or something. Takes a little SD card. Mm-hmm. And he was snapping pictures the whole time until we started getting into the water and everything. But everywhere we went, he would put that camera around his neck. And I'm like, how cool is this going to be that we're going to get to see this trip through a 5-year-old's eyes and a 5-year-old's perspective?
That's awesome.
We're all tired and jet lag and sitting waiting for our shuttle at the airport, and he's just snapping away. And I mean, it's going to be so cool. I'm sure he filled the memory card up on the airplane, but hopefully he did not, because I told my wife, it's going to be real special to.
You let him sit on the window?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I guarantee you it's got probably a lot of fingers and stuff like that, but it's going to be so cool to see, because I know how the trip was in my head, but to see it through his
through a 5-year-old,
to see it through a little 5-year-old's perspective.
You'll have to share some of that stuff with me. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be cool whenever we start digging through that. So you got back-to-back covers in June and July of 2017?
2017. I just actually got my 8th national cover last month. So I've had 8 national covers with them. I've got a couple. All my kind of covers are over here too. Some of them are. There's a couple shots over there. I've got 8 national covers with Salt Water Sportsman. My most recent was a snook from Jupiter. My good friend Ryan Nitz is on the cover of that one. So it's crazy too. It's all these people all have played a big role in my life as far as just friendship. And so it's just awesome to be able to put your friends on a national, magazine. And it's my growth. The greatest thing about picking up a camera for me is growth as a human. Just being able to fellowship with people, to meet new people. I mean, it's overwhelming a lot of times, the amount of people that I've been able to meet, greet, and know. And it's all because of a camera. And that is my life would not be anywhere where it is today without my parents helping me get started on this whole thing, this whole journey. And I thank them all the time for just the opportunity to be where I am. I mean, I managed a hunting fishing store for 13 years, and I worked part-time for 7 years almost. And I ran, I was running 2-3 jobs at the time just to try and make those student loan payments. and just, make life work. And so, I jumped in June of 2021. I moved. I was living in Columbia, South Carolina. Like I said, I went to Carolina. I lived there for a long time, 14 years there. But I jumped and moved to Bluffton in June of 2021, and I've been working full time since for myself.
I know, 8's a great accolade, and I'm sure you remember every one of them. But there can't be a bigger moment than that first time you get the call and like, hey, we're going to put your picture on the cover.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is so, it was a yellowfin tuna. I was with Hook and Gaff. We went down. We caught 400 pounds of yellowfin tuna between 3 fish. We caught 165, 150, and then I caught a 92 pounder. And I was just posting a lot of yellowfin tuna stuff on my page, and they hit me up on social media. They hit me up on Instagram. And they're like, "Hey man, we're looking for, we'd love to have an opportunity to showcase your work in our magazine, and we're looking for a yellowfin tuna. And we see a lot of yellowfin tuna on your page right now, and we were wondering if you wanted to have a potential to be on a cover." And so I ended up getting the cover. And then the next month was actually another Hook and Gaff related trip. I went out with Ozzy Martinez. He owns it's a nonprofit for military guys that suffer from PTSD. Operation Wetback. It's Ozzy Martinez. He's out of Florida, but he came up and Hook and Gaff sponsored him a lot, and we all went out on another trip and we caught a Dorado. So this shot here is the Dorado coming over the bow of the transom of the boat, and so those were back-to-back trips with Michael and Hook and Gaff, and those were back-to-back covers that I got early on in my career. And then at that point, I was like, I'm gonna get them all this year. We got 2. Well, we need 10 more. And that was short-lived thought process. But and that was actually another reason I was able to get linked up with Ryan Nitz, the guy that was on my most recent cover. Is back in 2017, I hit him up, and this kid was catching monster snook, like regular 40s, 44s, 46-inch snook. And the next cover, the August cover, they were looking for a snook, and I just hit him out of the blue on Instagram. I was like, "Hey man, I shoot freelance for Salt Water Sportsman magazine. I see you're the guy for snook." And I hit him up right before ICAST, and I took some time off of work, went down to Jupiter. I slept in my truck that night. It was the hottest night of my life because my truck didn't have any AC. And Ryan, my buddy Ryan, will always make fun of me for driving a truck that didn't have AC. So, but that was a moment where I started understanding that I could hit these people up and call on these people with potential opportunity. And Ryan's been my friend ever since. We never got a snook cover. I fished with him a ton, and I've got a ton of snook imagery until last month. We finally together were able to get on the cover of Saltwater for that one.
Now you've got plenty of waterfowl pictures on your Instagram page. What is that? Something that came later, or is it just pretty much just the same?
It is. It certainly came later. In college, managing that hunting and fishing store, I got to be well versed. I'm an outdoorsman. I've been hunting and fishing my entire life. Having a farm, we have a piece of property in Hampton County here, and I've grown up deer hunting, turkey hunting, but it's all here in South Carolina. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, but I would spend time with my grandfather fishing and hunting. But definitely waterfowl came in college. I didn't really have guys because all my hunting and things happened in South Carolina, and we got a pond or 2 on our place, but it really didn't promote duck hunting. South Carolina's not the greatest place to shoot ducks, but the wood ducks, amazing. But yeah, that's not really something. But I started, getting with guys that are a part of impounds here. These guys that have duck clubs. You put out a lot of your tamies, but it does, obviously promote other fowl to come in. And so I was able to go with guys that shopped with me at my store. And I would spend the night with them, have really good fellowship, eat good food, and then you wake up the next morning and, you shoot ducks. And I started getting into that opportunity by going and hanging out with these guys that were my customers. And so that really promoted my love and passion for shooting ducks too. So I'm an outdoorsman. I mean, I do hunting, I do fit. You see me, everybody sees me as a saltwater guy just because that was easier for me to get my start. But the emotion of hunting is far superior to me in my mind than fishing. There's a lot of emotion in fishing, but more times you're letting that fish go.
Mm-hmm.
In hunting, you are harvesting an animal. You're taking an animal's life for the betterment of your nourishment of your body, and that's the passion or the sensory and the emotion that can be captured with hunting is just far greater. I mean, I've filmed deer hunts in Kansas. I've filmed elk hunts in Montana. I've gone to Saskatchewan for ducks. I just recently spent time out in Idaho. The whole month of January, I was in Idaho for half the month, and then I was in Kansas for the last leg of their season. But most people see me as a saltwater guy, but I love and have just as much passion for hunting as I do fishing. I was very fortunate. We can go off on this tangent too. I won the Gunner Kennels photo contest a couple years ago, and so that really gained me a little bit more traction in the hunting space as well, because people are like, oh, he likes to actually do that too. I've told somebody 2 days ago, I was like, if I had to choose one thing for the rest of my life, it would be photographing dogs.
Yeah.
Working dogs, whether it's field dogs, whether it's waterfowl water dogs, there's a huge opportunity there because it's just a vast opportunity as far as hunting over dogs, and just trying to showcase, a drive that a dog has, or just, that I even have my own canine page. It's JHodge Canine Photo, but, I haven't put a whole lot on there here recently. But I have a lot of passion for photographing dogs.
Yeah, the dogs are what, that's kind of what sets everything apart in my mind. I mean, you get a good dog out there, even a shitty dog, but one that has a lot of love given to it. I mean, their personality shines through, and you've got a lot of amazing. You can see the story in the dog's eyes in a lot of your pictures.
Yeah.
Did you you've got a picture with Jameis Winston? Did you get to actually hang out on a boat with him while you were there, or just take a picture of him?
Yeah. So did you guys by chance see the viral videos with Jameis Winston?
Which ones? He's had a couple.
The ones of him interviewing tuna fish on the deck. So I filmed for the Sport Fishing Championship, and one of their first stops the past 2 years has been a production on CBS Sports called The Catch. And so they hire NFL guys that come down, and we just take them fishing for a day, and we document the opportunity, put it on CBS Sports. And so year one, I had Michael Jude on from the Pats, and Dalvin Cook was on my boat. We ended up winning that day. But then this year, fast forward, they kind of had some of the people be reporters as well. So Sage Steele was there. There was a ton of celebrities there. And Jameis Winston was my reporter on my boat. So I had Trey Hendrickson, that's on the Bengals. And then Njoku for the Browns was supposed to be on our boat as well, but something happened where he couldn't be on the boat. So I get Jameis comes, he had given us a pep talk before we got started, and I had already known that he was going to be on my boat. So he gets on our boat, and he's like, tell me what I need, JHodge. Let me know, what you're looking for today, and coach me through what I need to do. And so I was, coaching him through, and so we were more or less supposed to just have him be on standby to go in live and be a reporter. But as soon as I gave him that microphone, he was like, this is my time to shine. And I don't know if I've been worked harder in my life than I had to recharge that man's microphone at least twice, because he VO'd the entire day. And it was some of the most funniest stuff I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, he even made fun of himself. He's like, people are not going to understand. I've got a video of either people aren't going to understand that I'm saying sailfish. They're going to think I'm saying shellfish. But I'm saying sailfish. But everybody does know I do like some shellfish. He's like, NWs. But I was like, oh my God, dude. Like, being a South Carolina guy, we lost to them in the Peach Bowl. I was there. I was at Carolina during the Spurrier tenure and, stealing crab legs. My persona of Jameis Winston, I was like, I don't know about that guy. Like, I don't really see much of what his daily is just because I don't really care. I don't follow a whole lot of celebrities. But having him on my boat, that guy is one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, he's like, that guy's amazing. So yeah, Jameis Winston was on my boat for the day. And so that video, I mean, absolutely went viral, and I was the one that shot it.
He's a guy that it didn't come out really good. He come out kind of as a horse's rear end and kind of a rough around the edges. But now I've noticed he's a really big Christian man that does a lot of good things, but he preaches at church, and he went to somebody's wedding and he talked at the wedding and stuff. And I've seen him talking. He's really a good story and a good guy. So the way he
he really is.
The man that was portrayed coming out of Florida State has either grown up a lot, or he was really portrayed in a lot more of a negative light than he really is. I think he grew up a lot.
A lot of that there's that too. Everybody has growth, but he was portrayed as that from what I was told. I mean, I know some guys that are donors of SFU, and they're like, James has never been different. He's made some bad mistakes, but he's never been a different person. He's just a genuine person that loves to be around other people. And he's just a really good dude. So I think that was all kind of personified by the media, but everybody out of Florida State knew, who he was and who he is. So, that's why Jimbo Fisher stuck his neck out for him all the time, because he knew how great of a person Jameis actually is deep down.
Well,
so
you're 19 years old and you go to Florida State, and back then Florida State was very, very good in football. They was damn good in football. He goes there at 19 years old, and you got all these gals trying to get with you. You got people throwing money at you and stuff. Let me tell you something. If I was a 19-year-old kid in that deal, I'd have had me a whole hell of a lot of fun. And what 19-year-old kid is not? There's not very many Tim Tebow's out there. And I like Tim Tebow. I mean that in a really positive way. But most of those guys, they're 19-year-old kids.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, like, I think that was about the time the Me Too movement was kind of starting, because, I mean, he got in trouble for...
The grab him in the pussy.
Yeah, or no, that was Trump.
Okay.
His was fuck him in the pussy or something like that. In the chow hall.
Whatever, yeah, something like that. He stood up on that table and said something.
But either way, like, if you kind of look at the times of what was going on in America, like, it was just going to be open season on the guy that said anything derogatory towards a woman. So I think he kind of got caught up in that whirlpool.
Well, he went to Tampa Bay, and then he didn't do that well, and then he took a smaller contract to go to New Orleans. He's rode the bench for 2 or 3 years, and I think he's still at New Orleans. He might have signed.
He's with the Browns.
He signed with Cleveland. That's a good place to.
He's the backup for Deshaun right now.
He's the backup's backup behind Flacco,
I
guess.
Deshaun's hurt, so he's QB1 at the moment. But until he gets back,
he's humbled himself and took a smaller contract to play. I think the guy's a good guy. I really do. And I think, but I watched him on Talking, and I was really impressed by him. He's just a young kid that done young kid shit.
I mean, all of them do that. They're young, they're young alphas is all that they are. And then they're about to be young alpha millionaires. So give the kid a pass.
Well, Jameis talked a lot about his children. He's got 2 kids. And I think, I don't have any children. I have nieces and nephews. But having kids will change you. Yes. Tremendously. And so, I don't have them, and I don't know that how that feels having your own kid, but I know that my nieces, I have two young nieces, and I have 2 nephews, and my love for them has changed who I am, because I see through, just being their uncle. I'm the funkle because I get to travel and I bring them back gifts and they like me. But no, but just he talked a lot to me in the day on the boat, and showed me videos of his kid like playing the piano, and how he's just super proud of his kids, and they're super young, and he's very passionate about. He's a great family man from just talking to him.
That's how he's portrayed. That's exactly how he comes across now, is a good family person, a guy that Absolutely. Your daughter was married to, you'd have been really proud. When he was at Florida State, wouldn't have been real proud of my daughter for dating him. But the guy he is now, you can tell that people are just, he's really seems like a really good man. That's why I asked about him. I saw that picture and I thought, well, I'm going to ask somebody that probably spent some time with him. because I keep
Sure.
seeing all this stuff, and social media can make you look like you're a really good guy when you're not. Like the guy that's on, King of Queens, whatever his name is, Kevin James. He's a real horse's ass.
He's not a good
He's
guy?
not supposed to be a real good guy. Everybody I know that knows him says he's really terrible the way he treats people. But he doesn't seem that way on TV. It's portrayed to seem like a pretty good dude. So I'm glad to see Jameis Winston is exactly the way he's portrayed now. Seems to be a really good guy, and I'm really happy for him to get his life going.
And yeah, and a lot of those guys, I mean, the media, as you know, changes, wants to sway opinions left and right. And you're either on this side of the fence or you're on the other. And those NFL guys, I mean, Trey Hendrickson, amazing person. I got to spend a lot of time talking with him on the boat. He's an awesome person too. I mean, but these NFL guys are majority. Michael Pittman was on my boat the day before, big Colts wide receiver. And that guy is an incredible human being. So majority of these guys really embrace the opportunity to be who they are, and really give back to the community. Majority of those guys that I've ever met, even Judon was awesome. Dalvin Cook, good dude. But yeah, those guys really are good people. And I'm just blessed to be able to tell stories like this. And actually, up until I hung out with Jameis Winston, I probably would have said something different. Like, I don't know about that guy, but I got to hang out with him, and I'm like, I will stand up for that guy. And I'm just a little photographer, but I'll stand up, go to bat for that guy, because he really is a genuine human being.
Yeah. Last question. We'll start wrapping up. Did you see what the Coastal Carolina baseball coach came out and said? He railed against the NIL.
No,
It was. I guess
He probably lost a good player then.
Well, I guess were they in the tournament?
Yeah, I think they beat somebody the other day. My Longhorns blew it, so I really don't care no more about the baseball end of it. But
yeah, I don't know if he's thinking about retiring or not, but like he's pretty well.
The NIL dollars haven't affected baseball though, like
he said it has. He said, like, how am I at Little Coastal Carolina going to compete with these mega donors? He's like, you're going to have Texas, you're going to have Oklahoma, you're going to have Florida or whatever, and he's like, that's going to be it. Like all these smaller schools, we can't compete. We don't have
No, because the guys can transfer for no reason.
Right. And he said, and that's the other thing. He's like, these kids, I give somebody a scholarship, I'm backed into a corner to honor that scholarship, and they can just come to me at a moment's notice and be like, I'm out. I got a better offer in the camp or whatever.
And NIL really ruined all college sports for sure.
Not if you're a Texas Longhorn football fan now. Now, I don't like the NIL. I don't like the NIL. I'm going to be honest with you. But I think Texas is now I'm very
going to
biased.
be the benefactor?
Yes, because they got more money than anybody has, which outside of like Harvard or somewhere, they've got more money. And it's Texas, and they love football. A&M's going to put a bunch of money to it too. But Hill Sarkisian, everybody he's got is a 5 or 4 star recruit. We're just like Alabama was a couple of years ago. We lose an offensive tackle, gets hurt. The next kid coming in is a 5-star out of high school. I mean, in the school that I feel sorry for the most on this, and you're going to hate this, is Clemson. Because Dabo built the program the right way. And now nobody wants to go to Clemson hardly anymore. They want to take the money and go to these other schools. And so I think the NIL, I'm a Texas fan. And I love it for my Longhorns to be relevant again, but it is horrible for football. I think that
sports and
the transfers worse.
I mean, you
NIL.
go right back into what we were just talking about, as far as these kids that are getting money under the table years ago when Jameis was there. Now these kids are getting more money because it's out in the public, and you're throwing millions of dollars at these kids, and that can put you it can either help you in the long run, or it can put you in a wrong path pretty quickly, just because you don't know how to handle that.
I watched girls softball the other night. I watched the OU and Texas games both, and the OU girl's got a girl that's 3rd all-time leading home run hitter. She's probably making $100,000 a year to play softball this year. Next year, she ain't going to make a dime because there's no money in women's softball. It's kind of like the WNBA. You can say what they want to. If it wasn't for Caitlin Clark, nobody'd give 2 shits about the WNBA. That's a fact. But that girl's going to make her money, and she'll never have a chance to make it again. So I'm glad for somebody like that. But I think they need to do away with the transfer portal or the NIL, one of them. If you go to school and you want to transfer, you should have to sit out a year. And that'll do away with a lot of that NIL money, because you're not going to pay for a 1-year quarterback. Hell, look at Notre Dame. I think they're on their 3rd quarterback in 3 years, and none of them signed in South Bend right off the bat.
Yeah, my thought process on that is like transfer portal can still be there, and like I watch college football, but I spend more time out in the woods and then on a boat on Saturdays. So, but transfer portal, in my opinion, should be a 2-year process. So you can still get your money, but you got to at least go somewhere for 2 years, and you can't dip in and dip out, and because it just taints the sport.
Yeah,
you can go on, you can be on 4 different teams and win 4 national championships, and it's like LeBron doing what LeBron did. That's what we've made football into. It's like, I'm taking my talents elsewhere. Hopefully I win a championship. Right. Kind of LeBron ruined basketball as well. So.
If you have to sit out just 1 year where you can't play for 1 year, the NIL guys aren't going to come for you that bad.
No, they're not. And you're going to think long and hard about that situation more so than taking $1 to go somewhere.
And I like the 2-year period. Like the kid that was at Alabama, he grew up in Iowa, so he transferred back to Iowa. They gave him $150,000 or something to come back to school, got his check, was there like 2 weeks and said, I don't want to be in Iowa. Goes back and he went back to Alabama. They can't get their money back from him.
No.
It's a screwed up deal.
Very crazy.
Well, man, we sure appreciate you being on here. You're a very interesting man.
Got a very interesting job.
Appreciate
If you ever get out to West Texas, we'd sure love to have you come here and stay at the lodge with us.
Yeah, I'd love to get out there. And but yeah, I appreciate y'all having me. Thanks for kind of moving things to make my schedule work. It's a pretty busy schedule, so I was happy to I did get home and went to bed about 2 a.m. last night.
Well, we appreciate.
You guys said 10 o'clock Central, and I was like, okay, good. I get an extra hour of sleep.
Well, we appreciate you very much for being on here. God bless you and your family. Lots of prayers for your family with your loss of your grandmother.
Thanks, man.
And if there's anything we can do for you, please reach out to us.
Thank you so much. I'd love to be back on. So whenever you guys are ready to have round 2.
Perfect.
We will do that for sure.
Stay safe out there, my friend.
All right, boys.
You.
All right, bye.
Thank you.
Justin Hodge, interesting man.
Very, very, very interesting guy. Sees a lot of the world.
Another part, I think about this more and more with life, is there's so many different ways to make a living. Mm-hmm. And everybody gripes about America, but America is the world's leader in different ways of making livings. There's people out there that's got, cupcake stores. There's got everything in the world. And America is a big leader of all of that. It makes me, it's neat to see people we have forged ways to make a living doing different things.
Never know when that side hustle is going to pay off.
Nope. You never know. And being a photographer in the outdoors and making a living, they're very blessed, very patient people. I don't know how they do it, but I'm glad they do it. Anyways, thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all and have a great week.
Love you. Bye. Watch for deer. Check out all of our great sponsors. Go check out the Looking Glass podcast. Head over to their Patreon right now. Shin Gear, Dirty Duck Coffee, Dive Bomb Industries, Pacific Calls. Use our promo code BHP25. Boss Shot Shells, MLR Graphics, Lucky Duck, Mallard Bay, Ducks Unlimited, Double T British Kennels, Mossberg, Stanfield Outfitters, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Hemp Hill Farm. Use that promo code BHP.